Hey guys, and welcome to another Top Table Gaming video. In this video it's going to be an army showcase, and it's a special one. It's one I've been dying to do for a long time. We're going to be showcasing the alternate sculpts from Forgeworld of Thorins Company. When I wanted to get these guys commissioned, I painted the old box set ones, the plastic ones, and they're great sculpts, great minis, and I'm not going to blow my own trumpet, I did an alright job. I'm quite happy with them. But with these guys, I just wanted something special. I wanted something special that I can use on the channel using back reps, and they're just going to look tip top on camera. So, I messaged a few painters within our community that I know that we all admire, but different reasons, and being uber busy or just being totally tied up and can't even squeeze me in. Some are saying next year, some are saying look, it's not going to happen, which was a bit disappointing at the time. So I thought, you know what, I need to get these done. I'm going to go and have a look. So I started to go on the heavier metal Facebook groups, other painting groups, military model painting groups, just had a look around to see what I could see. And I stumbled across a lady in Poland. This lady's called Beata, and she's an amazing painter. She's got a style all of her own. The way she paints, I've not seen anything similar or close to. It's really something to behold, and when I seen her work, I thought that's amazing. I'm going to pop her a message, and luckily for me, she's a big fan of The Hobbit. She actually played The Hobbit SBG back in the day, I think when it was Lord of the Rings, she mentioned, and she's become a full-time commission painter, and her work is amazing. Obviously I'm going to pop links up and things like that, and there's going to be links to her sites in the credits. So make sure you check them out. She has a Facebook page, Insta, everything that you'd think that you would. She also wrote a few words for us, which I'm going to put towards the back end of the video, so keep an eye out for that as well. And if you are interested in commissions and you like the work that she's done, then please do get in touch with her. Let her know that you've seen her work and heard of her through Top Table Gaming, and she will look after you. She's a really lovely lady, really easy to deal with. From start to finish, I kind of just give her artistic license. All I said was, I don't want them to be too dissimilar from the movie, I want them to be recognisable, and she went with it, and what she did was utterly, utterly amazing. So, without further ado, let's go and have a look at the minis. Okay, so let's start with Thorin Oakenshield. You can probably see where I was coming from about the paint job. It is simply fantastic. I've struggled to see one painted as well. The way she's got the blends, the non-metallic metals. I was seeing the whips as they were coming through, and I was blown away. I mean, the bases. She was worried that the bases were a little bit too busy, which, do you know what? Maybe they're more busy than what I would do them personally for like gaming purposes, but they look amazing. I might even try and magnetise them so I can use these bases for when they're on display and put them on just like lower bases for gaming purposes, and I really can't wait to get these guys into a back rep very soon. So the Thorin Oakenshield profile as it stands, he's a dwarf, so he can move 5 inches. He's 5'6" with a 4+ shoot value. He does have access to a bow. He's strength 4, he's defense 7, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, courage 6, and he's 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate hero. As I said before, he has access to a bow. He has access to the Oakenshield, which he can buy at an additional cost. He has access to a pony, which he just becomes amazing on, and obviously he has access to Orcrist, which he is modelled with, as you can see. The Oakenshield basically lets Thorin use the shielding special rule, but he gets the chance to make a single strike back if he wins, so he still can strike back when he shields, which is really cool. And having 6 dice to shield with is a really good thing. Orcrist is something that I've only used Thorin a couple of times, and I always try to sort of squeeze Orcrist in there. It's such a handy weapon to have when you're inflicting D3 wounds instead of a single wound against goblins, orcs and Orokai. It just comes in really handy. when you're playing foes of that kind. And that, my friends, is Thorin Oakenshield. And here is Philly the Dwarf, the first of Thorin's nephews. This model in particular I really like. It's probably one of my favourites of the alternate sculpts of Thorin's company. I just really prefer it to the plastic one. Not that there's anything wrong with the plastic one, but I just really like the way he's just wielding his two swords the way he is, and he just looks cool. And the way Beata has painted this guy, again, just totally blew me away. Really suits the scenic base, lots of shades of browns in there. A lot of patience has gone into that, far more patience than I could have to get the shades and the blendings that she has got. So, onto his profile. Philly, again, is a dwarf, so move 5. All the dwarves are move 5. He's fight 5 with a 3+ shoot value, which is kind of irrelevant. Strength 4, defense 5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 5, and he has 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. He does have throwing axes. He has access to a pony, again, which is good. If you can get your dwarf heroes on a pony, that is, it's just a massive bonus. For 5 points, it's more than worth it. His special rules, he has bodyguard for Thorin, which is really handy, which, we all know what bodyguard does and how handy that's going to come in. With courage 5 anyway, it just saves them awkward positions of snake eyes in his courage rolls. He also has a special rule called combat synergy, which I'm yet to use in game or see use in game. And basically what that means is if Philly and Killy are in base contact, they may choose to swap places with one another at the start of any phase, and it doesn't count as moving. It doesn't cost any might or anything to do that. They can just do it, and it's interesting that it's at the start of any phase. So if one of them's in trouble, maybe it's the shoot phase. You can put him behind his brother or what have you. But yeah, that's Philly the Dwarf. And on we move to Philly's brother, Killy. Another one of a big favourite. She's seen quite a lot in forces. Philly and Killy, they're really good warriors. Almost exactly the same profile as his brother Philly. The difference being, all the stats are the same. He also has the bodyguard special rule and the combat synergy special rule. He has access to a pony, as does his brother. In his war gear, he doesn't have throwing axes. He has a dwarf bow, so he can shoot a bow. Which again, having heroes with bows can come in really handy. Having might to be able to sort of change those rolls if it's an important shot against an enemy leader to get a cheeky wound. It's always handy with your heroes. Again, looking at the browns and the blends that Beata's got in, it's just like that cloak is unbelievable. A lot of detail's gone into the sculpt, so making it look good with the painting is always going to be difficult, and I think she's absolutely nailed it. And then the contrast of the bright blue just looks amazing. Really, really pleased with that. And with that, we'll move on to the next dwarf. So we move on to Biffa the Dwarf. The paint job that she's done on this, again, I have to just point out the yellowy, mustardy colours, which she's also done on a couple of the others, really, really pop. Very happy with it. The non-metallics on the blade are just simply stunning. And I cannot stress enough, I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, the detail in the faces. This paint job, just simply, it's probably, in my collection, the best that I own, and I do have quite a few decent commission paint jobs, but these, just simply for how fun the models are anyway, and I think she's really captured the character of most of them. So, Biffa the Dwarf, his profile, again, Dwarf move 5, fight 4, 3+ shoot value, which does sort of come into play with this profile. Strength 4, defense 5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 5, 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. War gear. He has a strange weapon. It's basically a boar spear, and Biffa can choose to use this as a spear or a 2-handed axe, which is really handy. He has access to a pony. His special rules are he can throw stones. Again, never used this with Biffa. In the very few times I've used him, never seen it used, but I suppose that is handy. He has a special rule called battle damage. Biffa has an axe head stuck in his skull, as we've probably seen in the movies. And basically the way they've worked a rule around this is once Biff is reduced to 1 wound, he may use a single heroic action each turn without reducing his store of might. But only Biffa can benefit from these heroic actions, which is kind of unique and really cool, I think. And that is Biffa the Dwarf. So now we'll move on to Bofa. Bofa the Dwarf, the comedy relief in the film. Really like this character, one of my favourites. Again, with the paint job, Beata's really nailed sort of the browny off yellows, and just really made them pop. Detail in the face is just simply stunning again, and it just looks really cool. Onto his profile, move 5, fight for 4+ shoot value, which is odd. Strength 4, defense 5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 5. 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. Bofa carries a mattock. A mattock is a 2-handed weapon. It can be used as a hammer or a pick. You have to choose at the start of fight phase which. Again, which is handy. Sort of multifunctional weapons is always fun. Bofa has access to a pony, and his special rule is called Steadfast. Basically, each time Bofa's targeted by magical power or special ability, that's important, he may try and ignore its effect. You roll a d6, and on a 2+, its effects are ignored, which basically means you're only going to fail on a 1, obviously. If you try to resist the magical power, you must do so before making Bofa's steadfast rule. So if you choose to use will instead to resist, you must do that before his special rule. So it's not like you can use his special rule, roll a 1 and fail and go, oh, I'm going to use might. So you do have to use your will first. But to be honest, I think his special rule, you've got a higher chance of resisting it than you would with your will. But yeah, that's Bofa. Really cool profile, really cool model. And we move on to Bomber the Dwarf. Should we say the biggest in sense of width of the dwarfs. Bomber the Dwarf, he can move 5, even though he's so big. Really light on his feet. He's fight 3, 4+ shoot value, strength 4, defense 4, 2 attacks, 3 wounds, courage 5, 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. Has access to a pony. That poor pony. He has a couple of special rules. His first one is called lumbering, which basically is just sort of saying that Bomber's overweight and far from agile. When making jump or climb tests, Bomber must re-roll scores of a 6. Additionally, he may not call heroic moves or heroic marches, which is kind of themey. That's kind of cool. I like that rule. He also has one called Beefy. When Bomber makes strikes, he may choose to use the bash special strike, just as if he were using a mace, which again is really handy. I like the fact that a lot of these dwarves, they kind of have access to different kind of strikes and things like that, which is good because the weapons are multi-use and sort of special rules as well. And he also has another special rule called Raising Spirits. Once per turn at any point in his move phase, choose a friendly model in base contact with Bomber and roll a d6. On a score of a 4+, the chosen model regains a point of will spent earlier in the battle or campaign. Again, a really good rule, and it says at any point in his move phase, so he doesn't have to end in base contact with that model. He can simply sort of just glance past them, and you can do it sort of on the fly, which is really handy. And again, a lovely model. The texture's gone into the leather jerkin and things like that, and the non-metallics. I mean, the non-metallic on the spoon, with it being so small, is just mind-blowing. But yeah, that is Bomber the Dwarf. Ori the Dwarf, one of the most likeable characters from the movies. Really fun. He's on, I think he might be the lowest as far as points goes in the company, but a really cool and fun profile nonetheless. He's fight 3, 3+ shoot value, strength 3, defense 4, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 5. He has 1 might, 3 will, 1 fate. In his war gear, he has a slingshot. He has access to a pony. His special rules are, one of 2. The first one is called the Chronicler. At any time a member of Thorins Company slays an enemy hero or monster within 3 inches of Ori, that model immediately regains a point of might, will, or fate of your choice that has previously been spent in the game or campaigns. You can't get them past their original value, but regaining might especially and will if you know there's a caster in the opposing army is something not to be sniffed at. That's a cool special rule. I really like that, and it's not that you have to roll for it either. It's just a sort of a positioning rule. So if you make sure you position Ori within 3 inches of a combat that you're fairly confident of winning, and you're going to get that point of might, will, or fate back, which is good. His special second rule is called Deadeye. If Ori scores a 6 when rolling to hit, do not take any in the way test and do not roll to wound. His target automatically suffers a single wound. So if you roll a 6 to hit, it doesn't matter that the strength of a slingshot, I think, which is, I want to say 2, was it 1? Not too sure, but it's irrelevant. It causes a wound, which is good. So basically a slingshot could wound Smaug, which is crazy but a lot of fun. So yeah, and again, you know, it sounds like I'm hammering it home, but the paint job, the purples on Ori make him really sort of stand out from the rest, and it just looks fantastic on that base. And with that, we'll move on to the next dwarf. And here we have Dory the dwarf. Dory, you know, the dwarf throughout the movies who's looking after Ori and making sure he's okay. Really cool miniature, really cool pose, and again the paint job, you know, in the movies it's like dark reds. It's very similar to Barlin, and what Beata's been able to do is sort of add a slightly different hue on the reds, and when they're all together they all stand out individually, which is one of the things that I was really happy she did, rather than, you know, a lot of them just being the same red or the same yellow. They're all entirely different and just look fantastic. Onto Dory's profile. He's move 5, fight 5, 4+ shoot value, strength 4, defense 5, 3 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 5. He has 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. He carries a flail, which is a good weapon and quite cool. It's not something you see a lot. He has access to a pony, and his special rule is called a good sort, really. If Bilbo Baggins is within 3 inches of Dory, he may spend Dory's might, will and fate points as if they were his own. I suppose in certain situations where Bilbo may be in trouble or have an opportunity to inflict a wound that would be quite important in the game, then that special rule would be really handy, but I think it's going to be very, very situational and quite rare to use it unless you're playing the themey scenarios from the books. I think it'd be quite unlikely that you'd have Dory and Bilbo in the same force, unless you're going for total theme. But you know, tournament sort of environment, I don't think you would. But that's not to say you definitely wouldn't. Some people might do. I've just not seen it. I probably will be using it in bat reps in the coming weeks, because we have a lot of stuff planned for these guys, and there's going to be a lot of really cool themey scenes from the movie that we're going to play out on the tabletop, so keep your eye out for those. So yeah, that's Dory the dwarf. And last but by no means least is Nori the dwarf, another one of my favourites. He's kind of a mid-range member of the company. And as you can see, the paint job again, it's just, you know, there's a lot of members of the company that in the movies have similar sort of tones. I mean, Nori has very similar tones to Killy in his clothing, but she's managed to sort of make them individual as well. The blending is sublime on this model. It's just sort of breathtaking, and I'm really, really pleased with how he's turned out. I can't wait to use him in game. So Nori's profile, again, move 5, fight 5, good warrior, 4+ shoot value, strength 4, defense 5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 5. He has 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. He carries a 2-handed mace. Again, you know, following on from before, that, you know, across the company you've got access to a lot of special strikes, a lot of different special strikes. He has the options to take a pony, and his special rule is Weapon Master. So he's never considered unarmed. He doesn't get the penalty for fighting 2-handed in the duel roll, which is just brilliant. You know, I can't sort of hit home enough how not having that penalty when you going two-handed is amazing, because you're going to get the +1 to wound, and it's just fantastic. But yeah, really good profile, really cool mini. Sculpt is fantastic again, really dynamic. Oin the Dwarf, he has a movement value of 5 inches, fight 4, 4+ shoot value, strength 4, defense 4, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 6. He only has 1 might again, but he has 4 will and 1 fate. He carries a two-handed staff, and he has access to a pony. His special rules are healing herbs. In the move phase, instead of moving, Oin may attempt to heal a friend in base contact. Roll a d6. On a 1 to 3, there's no effect. On a score of 4 or 5, the model regains a wound lost previously in the game or campaign. And on a 6, the model regains all of its lost wounds. So that's really handy. Really handy. It says in the move phase, instead of moving, Oin may attempt to heal a friend. So I think, yeah, so you could move sort of injured people into him, and then you get that. He would have to stay still. Another special rule is prognostication. Is that how you pronounce it? And it basically means once per turn in the fight phase, Oin can expend a will point to enable a friendly model within 3 inches to re-roll a single dice in a fight. Re-roll a single dice in a fight. Does that mean as for the dual roll or the to wound rolls or both? Again, not too sure on that. I've played Thorins Co I think once in my life since they were released, so I've never really looked at the rules. So if you know the answer to that, do comment below and let us know. Again, as you can see with the paint job, stunning. The blend's gone into that cloak. Are just silly. It's just silly good. It's it kind of just puts you off even attempting to do it yourself, because you just know you're not going to be able to do it. It's a lovely model. It's a great pose, and I'm really happy with it. So we will move on to Gimli's dad. Gloin the Dwarf. One of the more expensive of the company, but you'll soon see why, because Gloin is amazing. In my eyes, I think he's spot on. He has a fight value of 6, 4+ shoot value, strength 4, defense 7, 3 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 6, 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. His war gear is down as dwarf armour and throwing axes, so that 4+ does come into play. He has access to a pony, as do all the others. And his special rule is called Warrior Ball, and it means that Gloin must reroll scores of 1 to wound in combat, which is crazy good, really good. Rerolling 1s to wound is really gonna rack up that kill count with Gloin. With 3 attacks, if they're on the ground, 4. If they're trapped are on the ground, that's going to go up to 6. What am I on about? 4. Don't know what I'm talking about. Have I played this game before? I don't know. But re-rolling 1s, yeah, that's amazing. And again, an amazing sculpt. Love this Forgeworld sculpt. Cannot recommend them highly enough. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the plastic ones, because there isn't. They're really gorgeous sculpts as well. Some of the best plastics that I've seen. But we all really wanted these, and when they were released, I couldn't wait to get my hands on them, and I wasn't disappointed. There's not one of the sculpts that I'm disappointed with. They're all amazing. So that is Gloin Dwarf. Dwalin the Dwarf. Dwalin is probably, after Thorin, I'd say, the most formidable of the company. He is fight value 6, 4+ shoot value, strength 5, defense 6, 3 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 6, 2 might, 2 will, 2 fate. He carries a 2-handed hammer. He has access to a pony. He has the Burly and Fearless special rules, which are just amazing. He also has a special rule called Weapon Master, and it basically means that Dwalin's never considered unarmed, and he never suffers the -1 penalty to a dual roll when fighting two-handed, which just makes him a beast, really. Looking at the paint job, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. The different textures in there, the different shades of green. again, I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, but the detailing gone into the tattoos on his head, you know, they just kind of make me want to throw my paintbrushes away because I'd never ever be able to emulate that kind of detail. It's an amazing miniature. And on to Balin the Dwarf, probably one of the wisest of the company. Really cool character in the movies. The paint job on this is a lot of reds, a lot of deep reds. The detailing on the trim, I mean, you can see it there. It's just sort of, it just, yeah. I could never ever even come close to that kind of detail. No matter how long I was painting for, it's out of this world. It's amazing. She's done an amazing job. I'm really looking forward to using her in the future on some other projects which I may have in mind, but I need to speak to her about that because I think she's going to get very busy. Okay, so Balin the Dwarf, move 5, fight 4, 4 plus shoot value, strength 3, defense 5, 1 attack, 2 wounds, courage 6. He only has 1 might, but he has 3 will and 2 fate. His war gear, he carries a sword mace, part sword, part spiked mace. We've seen these in the movies. They look quite cool. A lot of the dwarf warriors use them. It can be used to feint or bash. I think, you know, there's a lot of these dwarves in Thorins Company seem to have the equipment to deal with bigger things. So whether that was already at the back of their mind that they'd be dealing with, maybe, I don't know, big dragons and things like that. But yeah, it's really cool. I've mentioned it before in the other ones. Really cool that there's dual-use weapons. Balin has access to a pony, and he also has the special rule of Longbeard, and it basically means in the priority phase that Balin can use a point of will to enable his side to re-roll their dice in the priority roll, which can come in really handy. Now, one thing it doesn't say, which I wouldn't mind clearing up because it did come up in a game once, can he re-roll the re-roll by using a second point of will or even a third? So in essence, would he be able to use all 3 will if he didn't get the result that he wished? So yeah, if you're aware of this or it's been FAQ'd and I've just missed it, comment below and let us know because I'd be really interested. So there we go, guys. Thorins Company. I hope you like the video, and you know, I know you're gonna like the paint job. It's just blown me away. So you know, I hope it's come across on camera how good it really is. Look forward to seeing these guys in bat reps coming very soon. I've got a couple of dates booked in with friends. We're going to be doing like the really themey stuff, you know, Goblin Town, the Wild Chase, things like that you know, from the movies that you're going to recognise, and we'll play them out on the table. But yeah, going on to the paint job and the commission painting from Beata. If you have a look on Facebook for a group called Made by Shizune, that's Shizune, you'll find her work. But I'm going to pop links. I might pop them up or around here, or they'll be in the credits which follow just before the end scene. So please, I'll put them below as well. But please check it out. Say hi. If you do really like this Thorins Company, you want something similar, or you've got something else in mind, or you just want to have a chat with her, please mention that you've seen her in this video and this is where you got all the details from. That would be fantastic for us, and hopefully, fingers crossed, should be able to do something for us more in the future. But yeah, that's it for this video. So keep gaming, guys, keep on watching, make sure you share the videos. It really helps us. We'll try to get subscribership up a little bit if we can over the next few months, and there's going to be a lot of Lord of the Rings and Hobbit stuff coming, as well as some other systems. So I will see you all soon. Take care. Thanks for watching.